Have
Look
you
at
ever
this
noticed
stack.
that the harder you
That's
work,
the
the
question.
poorer you feel?
Does working harder
You are
just
exhausted,
mean
yet
we
your
end
bank
up
account
poorer?
barely survives the month. Welcome to the ultimate trap. The 99% of people are running endlessly inside a giant financial hamster wheel, fueled by anxiety and caffeine. You run, you sweat, but you never actually move forward. The system is designed to keep you exhausted, so you never stop to think. But what if I told you that escaping this trap isn't about working harder? It is about rewiring the exact way your brain makes decisions. There is a massive psychological gap between the 99% who struggle and the 1% who build generational, long-lasting wealth effortlessly. Self-made expert Natalie Dawson cracked this exact code. She identified 6 mental shifts that separate the ultra-wealthy from the rest of the exhausted crowd.
Let's
Today,
look
we
at
are
the
breaking
6
down
main
her
features of
exact
our new
blueprint.
program.
6
We've
psychological
streamlined the
rules that will
process to
drag you
achieve
out
the
of the
best
rat
results
race and
across
into the
all these
1%.
areas.
Let's start with rule number 1, the battle between the long-term vision and the short-term panic. This is where most people fail immediately. The 99% are biologically trapped in survival mode. They react to whatever shiny object or immediate crisis is right in front of them. Meanwhile, the 1% operate like snipers. They ignore the daily noise and use a long-term lens to focus only on massive future rewards. Your brain is actually your worst enemy here. It is historically wired to crave instant gratification and avoid any form of delayed reward. Your brain wants the cheap dopamine right now, the quick purchase, the fast food, the instant comfort. It hates waiting for a future payoff. To join the 1%, you have to literally fight your own biology. You must train your brain to reject today's comfort for tomorrow's empire. The cost of short-term thinking is devastating. You might feel good for 5 minutes, but you wake up 10 years later completely broke and trapped. The 1% know that planting a tiny seed today and protecting it from the storm will eventually grow into an unstoppable money tree. That brings
Now
us
pay
to
close
rule number
attention to
2,
rule number 2.
recognizing patterns instead of reacting to
versus
isolated problems.
That
The average person lives their life like a stressed-out firefighter. They run from one financial emergency to another. A broken car, an unexpected medical bill, a sudden late fee. They are constantly putting out small fires just to survive the week. But the 1% don't just put out the fire. They stop and ask, who keeps leaving matches inside the house? Wealthy people fix systems, poor people fix symptoms. It is a fundamental shift in perception that changes everything. When a crisis happens, your brain naturally focuses entirely on the immediate pain. It just wants to clean up the spilled milk. But if you force yourself to zoom out, you realize you have been putting your cup on a broken table for 5 years. 99% call their repeated financial failures bad luck or complain about a rigged economy. The 1% look at the exact same economy, spot the recurring rainy pattern, and start selling umbrellas. Natalie Dawson calls this the systematic mindset. You must completely stop being the victim of random daily events. Imagine you are in a sinking boat. The average person uses all their energy frantically scooping the water out with a tiny cup. The wealthy person uses that exact same energy to find the hole, patch it permanently, and sail away to safety. If you are always just reacting to emergencies, someone else is entirely controlling your life, your time, and your money. You need to step back, connect the dots, and build an automated system to handle the chaos so you don't have to. But why is it so incredibly hard to step back? That brings us to rule number 3, the lethal danger of emotional thinking. Rule number 3, data over emotions. The 99% make financial choices based entirely on how they feel. When the market drops, they panic and sell everything at a massive loss because pure fear completely hijacks their brain. And when a new trend explodes, they experience aggressive FOMO, blindly throwing their cash into hype just to feel included. Their financial life becomes a terrifying roller coaster, driven entirely by adrenaline, greed, and panic. But here is the harsh, uncomfortable truth from the top 1%. Numbers do not have feelings. Wealthy people completely divorce their emotions from their bank accounts. They treat money as cold, hard math. While everyone else is screaming and running in circles, the 1% are quietly sitting down to read the actual data. They put on that robot mask. They use pure logic to exploit the highly emotional mistakes made by the crowd. Let's look at a market crash. The media screams that the sky is falling, panic ensues, chaos everywhere. The 99% run for the exits. They abandon their 10-year plan because the short-term pain is simply too uncomfortable. But the 1%? They look at the exact same crash, see a giant neon sale sign, and casually buy assets at a massive discount. To escape the 99%, you must learn to act like a machine. You must become emotionally numb to the movement of money, which brings us to rule number 4. And this one is about protecting your most valuable, utterly irreplaceable asset, your time. The average person gives their time away to anyone who asks. They say yes to every distraction, meeting, and pointless drama. But the wealthy, they guard their calendar like a fortress. They have mastered the ruthless, highly profitable power of saying no. The 99% will gladly waste 4 hours of their precious life just to save $20. They will literally stand in a freezing line for 3 hours to get a free donut, or spend their entire weekend fixing a pipe to avoid paying a plumber. They fundamentally believe that their time is completely worthless, and that money is the ultimate scarce resource. The 1% operate completely backwards. They know money can be printed, but time is strictly limited. They will happily spend $20 to buy back 4 hours of their life and use that freed-up time to build a massive asset. This is the true secret of delegation. You are not being lazy, you are aggressively protecting your focus. Your brain is easily flattered by people asking for favors. It feels really good to be needed. It feeds your ego. But every time you say yes to a pointless meeting or a random favor, you are literally stealing time from your future self. Now look at the calendar of the ultra-wealthy. It has massive blocks of empty space protected by ruthless boundaries. If you do not schedule your own life, I guarantee that someone else will eagerly schedule it for you. Because their time is protected, they can step back and build automated systems that generate cash even while they sleep. Which leads us directly to rule number 5. Who exactly is filling up your calendar and influencing your mind? You have probably heard the famous quote, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." It is a cliché because it is absolute biological truth. Humans are tribal creatures. We absorb the energy around us. If you surround yourself with people who constantly complain, they will subconsciously pull you right back down to their level. The 1% ruthlessly curate their inner circle. They treat their environment like an exclusive high-security club. They surround themselves with people who are smarter, wealthier, and far more ambitious than they are. When a wealthy person shares a crazy new idea, their circle does not mock them, they help them build it. When an average person shares that exact same idea, their broke friends laugh and immediately tell them why it will fail. Your environment dictates your financial thermostat. It sets your subconscious baseline for what is considered normal. If all your friends are broke, your brain will literally adjust your behavior to stay broke just so you belong to the tribe. This is why leveling up is incredibly lonely. You have to walk away from the people who anchor you to the bottom. To join the 1%, you must be willing to be misunderstood, judged, and called completely crazy for a very long time. Which brings us to the final and most critical principle. Rule number 6, execution over perfection. The 99% are addicted to planning. They read 50 books on building a business but never actually start one. They suffer from catastrophic analysis paralysis. They want an absolute guarantee of success before they take a single step. The 1% know that the first version of anything is going to be absolutely terrible, and they launch it anyway. They make the embarrassing sales call. They fail aggressively and loudly to gather real-world data and iterate instantly. Because they actually took action, they win the market while everyone else is still busy drafting a perfect plan. As the saying goes, the ultra-wealthy jump off the cliff first and simply figure out how to build the parachute on the way down. Let's put these 6 rules to the ultimate test with a real-world case study. Meet Andy and Will. They both work the exact same job, make the same salary, and both just received a $10,000 bonus. Andy operates on the 99% mindset. He immediately buys a luxury watch to impress people he doesn't even like. He gets a massive dopamine hit. For exactly 3 days, he feels like an absolute king, but his bank account is bleeding. Will has the 1% mindset. He ignores the hype, looks at the data, and quietly invests his entire bonus into an income-producing asset. 3 months later, the pattern reveals itself. Andy's watch has lost 30% of its value, and the hype is completely gone. Unexpected emergency hits. Because Andy has no systems in place, he panics and goes into high-interest debt just to survive. Meanwhile, Will's boring asset has quietly started generating small but consistent amounts of passive cash flow. To pay off his debt, Andy is forced to sacrifice his most valuable asset. He works endless overtime, completely exhausting his time. Will uses his new passive income to hire an assistant. buying back his time so he can relax and focus on his next big move. Andy goes to the bar to complain. His circle of broke friends strongly agrees that the economy is rigged and success is just luck. Will goes to a dinner with mentors. They look at his data, point out a flaw, and show him exactly how to multiply his returns. Will's strategy isn't perfect. He loses a little money on his first try, but he executes immediately and learns the lesson. Fast forward 5 years. Andy is still running in the exact same hamster wheel, completely burnt out and bitter. Will, through the compounding power of the 6 rules, has escaped the rat race. The gap is now mathematically impossible to close. At this point, you might be asking, if this blueprint is so mathematically proven, why doesn't school teach it? The painful truth is that the traditional education system was built during the Industrial Revolution to produce obedient factory workers. The entire global economy relies heavily on the 99% staying exactly where they are, hyper-consuming. If everyone suddenly woke up, stopped buying useless shiny objects, and started buying assets, the consumer economy would instantly collapse. Corporations spend billions of dollars every year weaponizing psychology to keep your brain addicted to cheap dopamine. They hand out high-interest credit cards like candy, making it incredibly easy to mortgage your future for a temporary feeling. And once you are in debt, you are effectively trapped. You are forced to keep running in the wheel just to service the interest. People complain that the financial system is broken. It is not broken. It is functioning exactly as it was designed to. It was designed by the 1% for the 1% to harvest the time and energy of the masses. To escape, you do not just need to learn new rules. You have to aggressively unlearn everything society taught you. You have to erase the biggest lie of all, the fundamental belief that working incredibly hard makes you rich. Hard work alone just makes you tired. The actual equation for wealth is leverage combined with systems. Leverage means using tools, money, and other people's time to multiply your own limited output exponentially. Without leverage, you are just pushing a massive boulder up a mountain with your bare hands. Eventually, you will get crushed. You cannot outwork the system with your bare hands. You have to step outside of it, find a lever, and let physics do the heavy lifting. The 1% utilize 3 very specific types of leverage to build their empires and buy back their freedom. The first and most traditional form is capital, meaning your money working for you. The 99% trade their limited daily hours for a fixed amount of cash. It is a linear, exhausting game. The wealthy treat their money like an army. They deploy their soldiers to go out, capture more soldiers, and bring them back. The second form of leverage is labor, meaning other people's time and energy working for your vision. If you do everything yourself, your income is strictly capped by the 24 hours in a day. You hit a ceiling instantly. The 1% by the time of others. They become the architect of the system rather than the exhausted bricklayer. But labor and capital have a catch. They require you to already have money and complex management skills to use them, which brings us to the most powerful force in the modern world, infinite leverage. This is what creates modern billionaires. Infinite leverage is media and code. If you speak to people one by one, your impact is microscopic. But if you record a video or write a piece of code exactly once, it can be replicated and consumed 1,000,000 times with 0 extra effort. You do not need anyone's permission to write a piece of code, launch a website, or record a video. The cost of replication is 0. These digital assets work for you 24 hours a day, they never ask for a raise, and they never get sick. The harsh reality is this. The 99% consume infinite leverage, the 1% produce it. So the blueprint is clear, but what actually stops you from executing it? It all comes down to one paralyzing emotion, fear. It is not just the fear of losing money, it is the deep biological fear of being judged, isolated, and failing publicly. When you try to break out of the matrix, the 99% will desperately try to pull you back in, shouting that it is too risky. So you step back from the ledge. You choose the comfortable cubicle, trading your dreams for a predictable paycheck. 99% crave the illusion of absolute safety. They want a guarantee before they put in any real effort. But a salary is just a drug they give you to forget your dreams. It keeps you alive, but it never lets you thrive. 1% feel the exact same fear, but they jump anyway. They know that comfort is the ultimate enemy of wealth. They embrace the chaos, build their wings on the way down, and land on a much higher peak than everyone else. Here is a terrifying truth. The riskiest thing you can do in the modern economy is rely on a single source of income. If you only have one job, you are holding onto a single fragile string. When a recession hits or management changes, that string gets violently cut and you immediately plunge into total financial ruin without a safety net. The wealthy hold dozens of strings. If one asset fails or one business closes, they do not even flinch. That is true safety. To the 1%, taking calculated asymmetrical risks is the only logical way to survive in a chaotic world. They look at the math. If I fail, I lose some money and my ego. If I win, I gain my absolute freedom forever. Once the math makes sense, they put on their armor and step boldly into the unknown, leaving the matrix behind. The separation between the 1% and everyone else happens right now. Let's talk about what you will do in the next 24 hours. Here is your exact action plan for the next 24 hours. If you close this video and do nothing, you lose. Step 1. Audit your time mercilessly. Track every single hour. You will be utterly disgusted by how much time you waste. Step 2. Audit your circle. Identify the people who constantly complain and drastically reduce the time you spend with them. Step 3. Find your infinite lever. Start learning a skill that can be replicated. Write, record, code, or build. Understand this. You will not join the 1% overnight. It is a slow, grueling, and boring process. It is about planting a tiny seed, watering it every single day, and refusing to dig it up when it doesn't immediately sprout. The line has been drawn. The data is completely clear. You now know exactly how the game is played. You can choose to stay in the hamster wheel, trading your limited time for temporary dopamine and endless stress. Or you can step back, build your systems, and let leverage do the heavy lifting for the rest of your life. The 99% will watch this video and go right back to scrolling. The 1% will execute. Which one are you going to be? The choice is entirely yours. If you found this blueprint valuable, hit the subscribe button to keep upgrading your mental operating system. Drop a comment below with the word execute if you are committing to the 1% mindset today. Share this video with the one friend you want to bring to the top. Until next time, protect your time, build your systems, and keep leveling up. See you in the next video.